Welcome, everybody. I am Stuart Cohen. I'd like to think of myself as a group guru because if I do, and when I speak, it makes sense, and I influence, and I help you build a bigger, better group travel business, then I will have achieved my goal. So welcome, everybody. This is actually the first official recording of the Group Sales Power Hour podcast. Now, all of my boot camp members who are here right now, you know, hey, what do you mean this is the first? How can this be the first? You've been doing it since 2015. That's true. And if you remember back then, it was called the Ask Stuart Hour because I thought it was intriguing. And I was like, come on, bring it. Ask me anything having to do with group sales or basically running a more efficient, effective, successful group travel business. And then it became the Power Hour, and now it's the Power Hour podcast. And why did I do this? Because I had an opportunity to form a partnership with a very dear friend of mine, Richard Earls. He's at TRO, Travel Research Online. You all know him. Do you know Richard? Do you read TRO? I write regularly for them too, in a column called Motivationally Speaking. And he's launching this whole new podcast platform and invited me to share these power hours on the podcast platform because instead of reaching hundreds or thousands, maybe we can reach 10,000 travel advisors. Maybe the impact can be bigger. Maybe the circle of influence can grow. Maybe more and more travel advisors who've always wanted to get into the business or get better at the business can grow. Now, of course, in the audience right now are my boot campers. I love you. I'm grateful you're here. Thank you. And also some invited guests. So if you are an invited guest and you're here live with me in the studios, which of course you're not because I'm at home in my office in my home, which is an awesome studio I've set up here. You may not be able to see me if you're listening to the podcast, but trust me, I'm here, you're there. And if you're a guest, an invited guest, you're not a boot camp member, go ahead and type in. Let your fingers do the typing to let me know so I can welcome you in. The way this works is as follows, friends. First of all, thank you. I'm so grateful that you're here. And I hope you like my hat. I'm going to go on a mission to wear a different hat every podcast. Let's see how many podcasts I can go without repeating the same hat, because some of my friends and family know I have a hat collection. And because I haven't been on the road, speaking on stage, meeting you in person, doing what I love most, which is traveling and attending conferences, these hats haven't been worn, so it's time. This hat I obtained in Denver, Colorado, a couple of years back, and I am actually flying to Denver tomorrow. So I will complete a four-fecta. And the four-fecta is as follows. During this COVID pandemic scenario, I will have traveled on Southwest, Delta, American, which I just got back home from yesterday, and United tomorrow. So if you want, I'll give you a full report. If you want, I'll tell you how the experiences were on the various airlines because they were very, very different. So welcome again, Matthew. You were first in the house. Sam's in the house. Sam, I know you've got something special to share. We're going to put your mic on soon. Hans is here. Ramon is here. Bobby's here. Doreen is in the house. She says hello. I'm counting the different hats. Great to be here. Doreen, I'm so glad that you're here. Danny's in the house too. I'm so glad. And so let me get back to telling you how this works. I'm going to start off really giving you my thought of the day, some training. I hope that it will resonate and motivate to help you transform your group game. And then I will go to your questions, comments, agenda items, topics, challenges, issues, opportunities, suggestions, ideas, because you're there on the front lines. And then my agenda becomes your agenda. So here's the thing, make a promise. If right now, if you're here live in the audience with me, make a promise to me that you're going to let your fingers do the typing. So at the very least, say, hello, I'm here. first time participant in the Group Sales Power Hour. And everybody, if you have something to say, if you have a comment, if you have a question, go ahead, type it in, because you're going to see how fast this hour goes. It's going to fly by. And I promise to, listen to me, entertain. I promise to entertain you. You like that? I do. Hey, Lori's in the house. Welcome, Lori. I'm so glad you're here. So I want to start off by saying that although I have not had the distinct pleasure and opportunity and challenge to travel and be on stage, I have had gigs, if you will. As you know, I'm a professional motivational speaker as well as the founder of Group Sales Boot Camp and of this podcast of the Power Hour. I was supposed to have been in Las Vegas for the Virtuoso Travel Week, and I know we have some members, or some of you right now, maybe you're a member of Virtuoso, and shout out to Karen for introducing them to me. And it took years for me to be picked, to be chosen. And that's a whole other story I'm going to talk about in another segment of, if there's a client you want that you can succeed with, that you can score a big win, you've got to be patient, and you've got to be patiently persistent. So that's a story for another day, but they finally picked me to speak at their Virtuoso Travel Week. And of course, this was the year where it's not Vegas, it's not live and in person. So wow, I was sad about that and realized, hey, I'm in the door. Now I've got to knock it out of the park. So I actually pre-recorded for them. That's the way it worked with the speakers. 2 speeches. I don't know if anybody here heard my speech, but I did 2 speeches, and one of them was called, now listen here, How to Build a Bigger, Better Group Business by Increasing Efficiencies and Effectiveness. I mean, that title, is that me or is that me? That was the title of the presentation. It's a 45-minute program, and I listed a whole series of what steps a group travel entrepreneurs, group travel advisors, I like to call you entrepreneurs. Is that okay? You're an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. And I gave the whole series of things that they can start doing immediately to change the game. Now, my boot campers, you probably heard these multiple times. For those of you who are my guests here, maybe you haven't heard them all, but I want to focus on number 9. And number 9, the number 9 way of how to build a bigger, better group business is to seek permission to package. And that's what I want to focus on at this kickoff, the package. So right away, I'm going to launch a poll. So when you see this poll come up, and go ahead, fill in the poll. And while you're filling in the poll, I'm going to tell you my concept here. And I'll tell you why I picked number 9 to talk about. And then, of course, I will announce the poll findings. It would be fascinating to see what you all typed in about it. The question of the poll, by the way, is, do you create group packages? Do you create group packages? And you have 3 choices. Choice number 1 is not yet, but I will start. Next choice is sometimes, when my clients are agreeable to it. Well, the third choice is yes, my clients appreciate the added value. So for the folks at home who aren't seeing this, those are the questions. I will deliver the results shortly. And I want to tell you why I picked this one, because a dear friend who saw it at Virtuoso Travel Week said, Stuart, boy, I wish I had given some examples of question 9, which is seek permission to package. Because I know you didn't have enough time to go into, to dive deep into every point about how to build a better group business by increasing effectiveness and efficiencies, but talk more about it. Wish I had given more. And frankly, Karen, I wish I had more time to go into detail too, but here, that's what I want to talk about now. So stick with me, because I want to give you some really good, a little bit of a deep dive into it. And for those of you who are here live, make sure you type in your thoughts, your comments, your stories, your anecdotes, because I want to hear them, and then we could share them with the world who are tuned in now. And by the way, I'm going to shut the poll now. I'm going to close the poll, and I'm going to share the results. And of course, I will share the results with the folks at home momentarily. But the issue is that I have found, friends, having been, I was in the travel industry as an executive. I started off as a DSM, okay, but as an executive for 21 years, 23 years, who's counting? And I got the opportunity to see what the most successful group selling travel advisors were doing. I saw it happening. I still see it today. Remember, I worked on the supplier side. My most recent supplier job was as director of key account sales at Celebrity. I was at Insight. I was at Costa. I was at Princess. And I was on the consortia side with Vacation.com before it was bought by Travel Leaders Network and the consortium. And I was on the agency side with World Travel Holdings. So, the information, by the way, that I share with you is from experience. These are not hypotheses. They're not my theories. But I believe it's, everything I'm going to tell you is real from experience. And the reason why most travel professionals don't do it is because they think that you need to present the lowest possible price first. Okay, and what happens, friends, is that in order to get the group right, you put a great pitch together. You want to get the group, and of course you want to be price competitive. But unfortunately, and of course, what are they going to tell you? We want to pay more. Can you give us the highest price, please? Of course not. You want to be price competitive, so you figure, okay, and too many of us come in and share the, say it with me, bare bones, stripped down, off the shelf price. Bare bones, stripped down, off the shelf product. And that same stateroom on that same ship can be sold by a million other travel professionals and .coms. So what makes you special in the group business if all you're doing is selling exactly what they could pick up the phone and call direct to get, pick up the phone and call another advisor to get, or just book online? So one of the key takeaways, friends, is you need to provide a package and not settle on what's easy for you and usually doesn't score the group, and don't settle on what's dull. Now, think about this. Not dull for you because it's more work for you. It means you need to do the heavy lifting up front, don't you? You need to do the heavy lifting up front. When I say the word dull, though, I'm referring to dull for your guests. If all you're doing is giving them the stripped down, off the shelf, bare bones product, then they're going to come home missing out, and they're going to be disappointed. And who are they going to blame? Who are they going to blame? You. Because they're going to go back saying, I didn't know, I coulda, shoulda, woulda. And friends, at the end of the day, it's your job. This is what they're hiring you to do, or else why would they need a travel advisor, right? It's your job to transform the entire experience from good to great. And, well, you remember the first two. That's actually your number 3 job. Your number 3 job, that's it, transform the entire experience. But your number 1 and your number 2, which I'm going to say in a second, will help you to discover what to put in the package. Because his friend said to me, can you give us some examples? So let me, if I was to ask you for some examples, go ahead and type in, if you've created a package, go ahead and type in something that you've packaged in for one of your prior groups or one of your future groups. Just go ahead and type it in. I'll share it. We want to receive inspiration and motivation from you, and you can help in the transformation process. But while it's so easy to list a whole list of what you could add in, my premise here is that your client will tell you. If you do a great job of qualifying, and if you listen really carefully between the lines, you'll know what they need, what they want. And here are those. Remember, I told you there's three things your job when you qualify. There's three things you do and you deliver as a travel advisor. And I already told you number three. But number one is it's your job to provide things that reduce stress and risk. So while you're listening to them tell you about the things they want and don't want for their group, because you're going to do a great job of qualifying, what are the things that you know you can package in that will reduce stress and risk? Number two, what are the things you can do to add value and convenience? They'll tell you, friends. They will tell you. Now, I want to go back to the very beginning, because if you remember, I told you for this speech that I gave for Virtuoso Travel Week, number 9 was seek permission to package. And friends, if you don't seek permission, here's the secret. If you don't seek permission to package in the beginning, right away, straight away, from the starting line, it's going to be more and more difficult to sell your idea of the package. So straight away, friends, what I encourage you to do, what I coach you to do, is take your time qualifying. Even though they're going to tell you, oh, we're shopping, we want best price, of course. And you know what? If you're really bold like me, you can say, look, I am going to get you a price point that is incredible. It's a high value price point, but I'm telling you right now, it's going to be higher than any place else you look. Let that marinate. What do you mean it's going to be higher? Well, I'll tell you why. And my boot campers could probably deliver the same speech. And if you're new in boot camp, because we just welcomed in a whole lot of new boot campers, you know what I'm going to say is that your mission is to give them the things that they could have done, would have done, should have done. Book it in advance, reserve it in advance, because when they get there, the lines will be too long, it'll be too expensive, it's going to be sold out. It's just going to create too much stress. So you tell your client, after they say, why are you going to be more money? You're going to say, well, it's going to look like it's more money than when you go shopping for the same exact cruise or the same exact resort or the same exact tour. But in the long run, it's going to save you money, because I'm going to give you, write this down, a more inclusive price point. Write that down. Not all, more. Important determination. A more inclusive price point. So when you get there, you won't be upset, disappointed that you missed out on something, because I want you to have a much fuller, a much more extravagant, wonderful experience, a memorable experience. I don't want you calling me saying, oh, wow, we didn't know about this restaurant here. Oh, no, I didn't know we could have done a pre there. Oh, I don't know we could have done a private excursion here or a special dinner there. I mean, take a river cruise, for example. As most of you know, in April 17, I did a partial ship charter. A partial ship charter. Not just a group, but a partial ship charter. If you know me by now, I'm a risky guy, but I knew it was going to work, because I and my wife, Kimberly, and I, we were the group leaders. And it was family and friends. So I wanted to do, because first of all, I love river cruising, don't you? And so we had gone on 2 prior, and all of our friends and family were envious. They're like, oh my God, this sounds great. We want to go. So we're like, hey, you want to go? And she's like, yeah, let's go. Let's invite family and friends. And it worked, which is exactly what I hope you do. That's a whole other discussion. And we river cruise includes so much. And you're saying, Stuart, what could we possibly do? Well, one of the ports, it was actually a motor coach. Yeah, I know. You like Stuart, which was the port? It was in France. It was come on, somebody's going to tell me, because this is what happens. I go a little blank, but I'm staying with the program here. It was the Rhine River, and it was the one visit France. You take a motor coach, you go into this gorgeous city. I can't remember the name, but we arranged a private dinner, lunch. A private extravagant lunch. The food just kept coming. So yeah, there are ways to get creative, and we did it as a surprise. We told people like a couple of weeks before big surprise, big surprise. Boom, we're going to treat you to lunch, because it was unlikely they were going to go back to the river cruise and then back to the city. So no need, we got you covered. And they loved it. So remember, if seek permission to package, say, hey, so here's the question. And I see a lot of people typing in stuff. I'm going to read you, friends, listeners of the Group Sales Power Hour podcast, what others have said here, so you get some ideas. But right out of the gate, I want to encourage you to be bold and to say to the committee, to the family, whoever it is you're working with, who they're asking you for a pitch to get their business. Ask them, hey, will you give me permission to package so that I can give you a more inclusive experience, a much better, memorable, fuller, richer experience? Well, sure, what does that mean? Well, what that means is, right up front, it gives me the ability to negotiate on your behalf stronger. And I might be able to get special pricing that I will be forbid from revealing to you, the individual parts of the package. And therefore, when I bundle it and I package it, I'm going to give you one number, and it's going to be all in. Everything's going to be baked in. I don't want you having to spend more money and more time when you get there. So these are the things that we're going to talk about. We're going to uncover to make sure that these are the things you want to experience so you don't miss out. Do I have your permission to do that? And if they say no, well, then you have to make a choice. You can give it to the travel advisor down the block, or you can roll with it, but then you're going to be dealing with the bare bones price point. And they could shop you till they drop you. So differentiate yourself right away, because you want the business where you can value it up. Okay, and I don't like the word selling up, because that's not what we're talking about here. We can call it trading up. Have you read that book? Great book, Trade Up, Trading Up. Okay, the bottom line is you're going to increase it's all about increasing their satisfaction. And at the end of the day, when you go to count your beans, your profits, you will obviously be more profitable, because you're not just being a commission hostage, which is something I've talked about for years. And I worked on the supplier side. They're only going to pay you what they're going to pay you. Why would you settle for that? So you're going to super satisfy your clients and super satisfy your bank account. That's what I'm talking about. All right, let me take a break and let me see who's talking here. Sharon's in the house. Oh, hey, Sharon, I did enjoy Boston. Thank you very much. I'm just back from Boston, where I had to take another COVID test in order to be permitted into Massachusetts, living in Tennessee. And then we drove to New York to help my mom pack up. She's moving out of the house she's lived in for 50 years that I grew up in, and drove back to Boston. And it was great because I spent time with her and my kids and my granddaughter. So it was an awesome trip. Thank you. Linda said she was having audio issues. Uh-oh. See a doctor. I'm kidding. Well, I hope you can all hear me, and that maybe it's a localized issue. I don't know. So far, it looks good at my end. I'm going to create 2 group packages that I will escort in 2021. That's Doreen. Okay, so Doreen is pumped. She's inspired. Doreen's a boot camp member. I'm going to create 2 group packages. And please, Doreen, will you please share them with us on a future podcast or in our Facebook group? I would love to hear what you're doing. Lucy said audio is going in and out. I hope not. There's nothing I can do. I am live, and I don't see any issues at my end. I sure hope we're coming in smooth for the majority of you. Lucy, I am sorry if I speak slower. I don't know. Now, did you see I actually start these 10 minutes early to test out the systems. But I've given up trying to figure out why sometimes things work and sometimes they don't, because just when you get comfortable that it works every time, it doesn't. But I'm praying it's all good. Okay, Bobby, as a boot camp member, said that she created a private dining experience for the group, and that's a beautiful thing, right? Listen, friends, One thing for sure is you don't want to give them something they don't want. And you don't want to give them something they don't want. If you read a recent article I wrote in Travel Research Online called Motivationally Speaking, I talked about that. First, ask me what I don't want. That's the name of the column. Ask me what I don't want. You know, that's why, friends, we don't get sales. That's why we lose sales. Because we either give them something they didn't ask for, or we don't give them something they asked for. Or we did a lousy job of qualifying and didn't know. A or B. Lori said, I added on to a basic photo tour with local photographers. So she actually added on a photo tour with local. Well, it's brilliant with local photographers. I love it. That's great, Lori. By the way, Lori, where was this? Was it in a particular port? Was it a particular island? Somewhere in Europe? I'm just curious where it was, if you don't mind telling me. And Sam said, just packaged a Scotland, England trip for a family group from 3 different states. Started out with just one couple, but I asked the question. Here it comes. Here it comes. Here's what Sam asked. Here's how she went from one couple to multiple couples. It's now multiple couples. She asked the golden question, do you have anyone you'd like to invite to join? Right? And in boot camp, I teach this. Even if you have individual passengers or group guests, yeah, or every single time you talk to them, I don't care if you talk by email or by phone and you talk to them 6 times a day, you always want to ask, hey, any friends or family it'd be fun to travel with? You know, use your words. Sam is using her words. And guess what? She's now up to 13. So she turned an individual booking into a group. Good for you. That's awesome. I'm very proud. And Sam, in just a minute, I'll let you know when I'm going to put your mic on. Let's see here. Linda packaged a Disney cruise package with air, hotel, and car. But once the daughter-in-law got involved, she didn't want to stay at the Universal Cabana that my client was paying for. And then Delta messed up my seating arrangement. Otherwise, it worked out okay. Oh, no, my hat came off my head for that moment. I'm sorry. Man, it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But apparently she had packaged it a whole Disney cruise package with the air hotel, and sometimes that happens. Too many people get involved, right? Too many cooks in the kitchen. I'm sorry that happened. I hope ultimately it worked out. Off topic, Lori said, I need a picture on the wall of my gorgeous grandbaby. You are correct. I will come back with that. I promise. All right, hang on. So I tell you what we're going to do. Hang on one second. Wow, we got a lot of people in here. Let's go to Sam. Sam, I'm going to unmute you because so Sam is a boot camp member. Sam has a story to share, and we want to hear from her. So Sam, I'm going to unmute you so we can hear your beautiful voice and your motivating story. Sam, you there?
Yes, I am here, Stuart. Good morning, everyone. It's not so much a story, kind of, but I do have a question for you, though, Stuart.
Yes. Yes.
I had 2 groups ready to go this year. One was on a river cruise, and one was to Ireland and Scotland, which, by the way, I've now made my niche, Scotland, UK. As a result of COVID, we all had to start thinking niches. So that said, I have been talking off and on to everyone who had signed up for these groups. And the river cruise got put over now to October of next year. I'm good on that. But the land tour to Scotland and Ireland got set to June 21st of 2022.
Oh boy.
So, and I have I have 14 people right now. So I have room for like 2 more people. Or at least I did. So my question is, we talk a lot about 2021, but what happens? I mean, it's too early for me even to package something at this point. And I intend to tweak the customized itinerary as well. But do I need to be promoting this now, Stuart? I mean, What
It's a great question. It's a great question, everybody. I hope you heard Sam's dilemma, and if everybody at home wants to chime in and type in a response, I'll tell you first thing that comes to my mind is it's never too early. You know, typically when business is great and strong, especially if it's a trip that involves a longer flight, longer time away, bigger price tag. Remember, Sam, I always say you can never start promoting, and especially using my group launch sequence. So at least you start the process of getting people motivated, intrigued, interested on a list. You know, start that funnel early. It's never too early, especially these days.
Okay.
I would suggest to you to go for it, and I'm going to tell you why. I think we're all we I don't want to tell you stuff you already know, but if we had something on the horizon to look forward to, then then that's something we start dreaming about. And you know what'll happen, Sam, is maybe they won't be distracted about something else along the way. Maybe they'll say 2022 is the year we're going there, and maybe they'll do something before. I'm not saying they won't with you, I hope. But if you start getting the information presentation series, at least start to drip out some information, say, hey, listen, no obligation right now. Just get on the list so you stay informed about our progress, about what we're building for you, and we'll walk you through the day by day. I think it's totally cool, because at the same time, you always want to say the same words that you typed in a minute ago, which is, by the way, if you have any friends or family who you may want to invite, now is the time, because capacity will be limited, and 2022, we know it's just going to be a sellout. So I know it sounds crazy, but everything is upside down, inside out. I would encourage you to begin the process and just get them queued up and excited for something to look forward to. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I guess I'm wondering also about Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't taken the time to learn Zoom. These people are all 55 plus.
Yeah.
And while they're not on Facebook, I think maybe they might be interested in doing, what do you think of a monthly meeting on Zoom for those who, or, you know, is that a popular thing really? I can't tell if people are really using it in that way.
I would say yes, and if anybody in the house wants to make a comment, I would say yes. I definitely think we've had more and more people who were completely unfamiliar, completely uncomfortable, or unaware, let alone with products like Zoom or GoToWebinar, whatever the platform is, that they have become more comfortable with it, whether they're using it for business, for their own work, whether they're attending meetings using these platforms, whether they're a teacher and they have no choice but to learn in so many cases of how to use this new technology, which is not new for so many of us like me, but not everybody uses the same tools for business. I would say yes. That said, if you haven't yet started a private Facebook group for this group, and you can tell people, just jump in the group. It's for you. There's no obligation, and you can see the conversations we're having, and I'll post pictures. And perhaps you might want to try even doing a Facebook Live. And I know that may be intimidating, Sam, but that's another way, and a very, very simple way. If they're afraid of using an application, they have to download something. I assume they're on Facebook. If they're not, I get it. You can always record it, and you can send out the link to the video at another date, or you'll load it up to YouTube. But I would do it that way. Start communicating that way, and you'll have to see. Maybe they already love Zoom, and it's a piece of cake. It's easy. Or maybe you can float those questions to see, hey everybody, would you rather meet by Zoom, or would you rather meet on a Facebook Live session? See what they say.
Okay. Got it.
All right?
Yep.
All right. All right, I'm going to put you back on mute. Sam, thank you very much for sharing. I appreciate that.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, you got it. All right. And I just want to see if my friend's in the house. He's not in the house yet. So let's see here. Danny's in the house. Hi, Danny. Kyle's audio is fine. So we hear the audio is fine. So it's a situational thing. Let's see here. So Lori said that group where she added on the dining experience was in the DR. Thank you very much for that. And she said the DR they stayed at, it was an all-inclusive, and they did a 3-day trip. Oh no, that was for photographers. That was photographers, not the dining add-on that she used to package in. She actually created a private photo trip with local photographers. And Danny's saying that he uses Zoom in many different ways. And Joanne said, yes, I am a BDM overseeing over 90 agents. And we do group trainings, download meetings, etc. So Joanne right there is giving us the thumbs up that for sure Zoom is working. And over 90 agents, they're already doing it. So, Sam, this is also supporting your question, hey, could we use Zoom to do this? And then Linda, one more comment from Linda, and then we have a special guest who's just dropped in the house. Sam did a Zoom call with her clients that had to, Linda did a Zoom call with clients that had to cancel the cruise, and it was great. Only had to present one time, and they all got the same information. I say go for it. So sometimes it's good for delivering good news and bad news, because you get to answer the questions and everybody gets the information right away at the same time. And I think it's a great way to go. And Mike, you in the house?
I am. I don't know. Can you hear me, Stuart?
I hear you. And not only do you sound crystal clear, but you look, look at you. You look gorgeous. Did you shower and shave today? Absolutely.
I showered, shaved, combed my hair, put on a new shirt just for you.
Well, thank you. Hey, friends, my regulars who come to the power hours, I'm sure you all know Mike Marchev. He's not only a very, very dear friend, but he's my mentor and my coach. And, well, we go back a long way, and we are both in the same business. We are both motivational speakers, entertainers. And I invited Mike to drop in on the show for 2 reasons. Number one, because his wit and wisdom is inspiring, and I thought he's gonna drop something here that is going to inspire us all and be interesting, because he is. He's an interesting guy, and he's fun, and he's funny. Not funny looking, but he's funny. And number okay, yeah, okay. And number two, I forgot number two already. And number two, this is the power of leveraging your colleagues. So I'm going to ask you this question, travel advisors. Here's the question. When's the last time you invited a friend, a competitor, onto one of your presentations, into one of your groups? Because while you might be competitors, you're friends, and maybe they can add value to what you're doing, and you pay it forward, you add value back. Mike has invited me countless times into his inner circle. So I wanted to demonstrate right here. And by the way, Mike's also got his brand new podcast starting too. But Mike, welcome to the group here, to the Group Sales Power Hour podcast. And what have you got for us?
Well, number one, I don't want to, this has been a fantastic show. I came in a little bit early and was listening. And there are so many things that make sense today that, and I heard Sam's question a moment ago. And I'm thinking, now what can I do not to take up too much time, but to bring something to the party? And I was on a call not long ago, and Dr. Rob Gilbert from Montclair State University called me back, and he wanted to be involved. And so he's a sports psychologist, I guess, in Montclair State. He graduated from UMass 1,000 years ago, a little before I did. And he asked me to share a story again, and I apologize for any of the inner circle. I see a lot of inner circle people on the line today. I apologize for repeating myself, but the message I think is a good one. And it goes back into 1967 when I was applying for college, and I wasn't high on the SATs, and I wasn't high on the class rank, and my guidance counselor said, don't bother applying to A, B, C, and D. Okay, don't bother. Go home and figure out what colleges you want to apply to. Right. And he was telling me, he was laying a foundation for me of what I could or could not do. That's lesson one. Mm-hmm. So he was the boss. I listened to him. I went home and I talked to my parents. I said, I have to apply to college. And he said, I couldn't go to these A colleges. I have to go to the B colleges. And my mother would say, who is he to tell you where you can go? Who is he to tell you what you can accomplish in life or in business or in school?
Yeah.
And she said, where do you want to apply? And one of the schools I wanted to apply to was the University of Notre Dame. And she says, well, then do that. So I did. And I went back to my guidance counselor and he laughed at me. He says, Mike, he says, way out of your league, SAT score, class rank won't happen. I suggest you go to Kane College in New Jersey. So I went home. I told my mom that the guidance counselor said I wasn't in position to go to Notre Dame. And she kind of got upset with me and said, write a letter, sit down and write a letter back to Notre Dame and apply there. So I applied and they came back with a rejection letter. Okay, no surprise. My mother said, that's not good enough. Write back to Notre Dame and say, maybe you misunderstood us. We wanted to come to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So I wrote a second letter. I applied first, then wrote a second letter, and I got a second rejection from the University of Notre Dame. It's a true story, Stuart.
Yep.
And my mom still wasn't happy, and she said, "That's crazy." She says, "Write a third letter back and say, let's cut to the chase. And when the classes begin?"
Yeah.
Well, they put me on a waiting list, and that wasn't good enough for my mom. So when I wrote back that third letter, they finally came back and said, "Listen, kid, welcome to the class of '71. Don't write any more letters. We start next Tuesday." Yeah. Well, the lesson is, and it's a business lesson, Stuart, that many of us accept the first rejection. Yeah. And that's why they reject you, because they know you're going to go away. I'm just looking. Go away, Joe. It's not time. I don't want to go. I don't want river cruise. No river cruise. No Alaska. No Cancun. Go away. Well, you don't want to be obnoxious and you don't want to be pushy, but you want to represent your product, your company, and you in the right fashion. And what we need today is not pushy or arrogant or manipulative, but we need somebody who stays the course, who realizes that sometimes a second effort is very worthwhile, sometimes a third effort, and I'm talking about sales now, and additional consistency, I guess is the word, or persistence maybe, but you're in business and you're good at it. And if you start playing to the wrong audience, you're not going to go anywhere. And the wrong audience are the people who are rejecting you outright and just say, go away. And then you listen to them and you go away. And that's why many people in this COVID-19 thing that we're going through, this conundrum, I call it a conundrum, we're getting tired. We're getting fatigued. We're getting worn out. And many of you probably on this line today have fleeting thoughts through your head that maybe this is the wrong business for me. Maybe this is the end of the line. Maybe it's over. Well, for some of you, it might be over. Okay, it could be over. It could be time for you to go on and do something that you have more fun with or you're better at, or it may be time. But for others, this is just the next challenge, the next obstacle. And I challenge you, or I urge you, if that's the right word, that if this is your business and if you're good at it and if you really help people and if you're really sincere and you're really genuine and you're really honest, then you stay the course. You stay the course. You write that second letter. And Sam, to answer to your question, yes, it's time to subtly start sowing those seeds now, because something else happened. Stuart, I'm going to stop talking in a minute. 2 times last week, friends of mine said to me, they said, I really want to go to Alaska. I want to take a cruise to Alaska. That's what they said last week out of the blue. Another friend of mine said, maybe it's time for me and my wife to take that river cruise we've been talking about. The message that I received, they're not going today, they're not going tomorrow, but people today are starting to think. And as Stuart said so appropriately, that when you have a goal, when you have a target, when you have something out in the future to look forward to, it makes life worth living. And people today are starting to put the travel back on their to-do boards, to-do schedule. And now's the time for you to become visible and helpful and there for them. And I think it's time. Last thing on the Zoom, Stuart, last thing on the Zoom, folks.
Yeah, bring it.
Zoom's good. Zoom is good. But it's also a vehicle. And Stuart knows and I know that suppliers We say this in all due respect because we love suppliers, but 80% of them really stink when it comes to presentation skills. And you can shoot yourself in the foot if you say, hey, I'm going on Zoom, and if you stink, you're hurting yourself. So don't just say, hey, I can do Zoom, I can do this, I can. No, practice. Know it's you. If you don't feel comfortable with a video camera in your face, work on it. Become better, rather than go out and say to the world, I really stink at this. Because a lot of people are zoomed out now, and they don't want another lousy Zoom. They want another good Zoom. So, Stuart, does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. I completely agree. And also to that end, you don't need to stretch something to an hour or a half hour. Get in, get out, start small, bite-sized pieces, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, just give a thought or talk to somebody like I'm talking to you now. Maybe that would make you more relaxed because Mike, we've been doing this for a long time. And we still get the adrenaline rush. We still get a little bit nervous. We want to make sure what comes out of our mouth is salient and makes sense, and the technology stuff. So, you think big, but start small, and don't do it if you practice before you do it, because, like you said, it may not bring you the results you want at first.
And I think you announced Richard's podcast system before I got online.
What do you got going on?
The only message I'm telling you is that, yes, I told Richard I would do it. A lot of my peers, and I don't know, Stuart, how long your program is going to be, but my program is scheduled for 5 minutes. I'm going to be in, message, out. And if people say to you, they say, how long should a Zoom meeting be? How long should a presentation be? How long should a podcast be? The answer, very simple, as long as it takes to deliver the message. It could be 5 minutes. I'm going to have a 3-minute podcast. I'll have a 7-minute podcast. It'll float. But it's just going to be, when it's over, bingo, it's over, because people are busy today and they want to get going.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. And I would add to that, as long as it takes to deliver the message and keep them intrigued for more. And leave them saying, oh, wow, I can't wait to hear part 2, part 7, part 8. If you give it all, if it's too much to digest. It's not about stringing people along. It's about telling a story in chapters. Think of it that way. So just tell us quick about your podcast, because it's got the coolest name. I love it.
Well, it's called Mic'd Up Marchev. It was going to be just called Mic'd Up, but that was already taken. So I had to throw something in that no one else had. So I tossed in the last name. But it's called Mic'd Up Marchev, and it's going to be little snippets, little ideas, little tactics, little thought provokers of what I've learned over the last 45 years of business. And I think that's apropos for people. And everything I know, you already know, folks. I don't know anything you don't know. However, there's a lot of things that you may have forgotten that work for you that will still work. And I'm kind of like a stimulator, I guess. So not motivate you, but I stimulate your thinking to get you back on the horse, back in the game, having more fun in this game of travel, because we're losing the fun. We're getting beat up a little bit, and we got to introduce the fun. We have to bring your personality back onto the street, and realize that a lot of people don't want your help. That's okay, but a lot of people need your help, and those are the people who you're looking for.
Bingo. Beautiful. It's so good to see you. I'm going to see you a little later for our mastermind meeting. It's so great to collaborate like this, Mike. And everybody, remember, what you just saw is something we encourage you to do too. Work with each other. 1 + 1 = 3 when you do stuff like this. And I know Mike's he's gonna call me up. Could be a week, could be in 3 months. Hey, pop into the inner circle. We need a story from you. We want to hear about an experience you just had. So, Mike, I appreciate it. Thanks very much for coming in. We'll see you later.
Okay, man. Bye, everybody. Good luck to everybody, and I'll talk to some of you later.
And Hans says hello.
And back at you, Hans.
Linda had commented that she loves your story. It makes me think of the movie Rudy, and he did what it took to play football for Notre Dame. My granddaughter did the same thing. She applied to Creighton University, not thinking she would get accepted, but she did. Our younger generation needs to learn this to be present too. There you go.
Stuart, that's good. Yeah. I just took my camera off, but they say I'm still on. How do I disappear?
I think, yeah, I'm going to dismiss you.
Oh, there you go. I got it, I think.
There he goes. All right. I want to do two things. You're probably saying, hey, we're listening to the podcast, Stuart. You didn't give us the results to the poll that you did before. And the poll was, do you create group packages? And here were the responses. Okay. The 16%, so the lowest, this got the lowest number of responses, said sometimes when my clients are agreeable to it. Okay, so that was the least, that got the least number of responses. So the fewer among you said sometimes. 32% of you, so about a third of you, said not yet, but I will start. And much to my great pleasure, truly, and let this be inspiration to everybody else on the line, 53% said yes. My clients appreciate the added value. So this is music to my ears that over half of you right now who responded to this, and I know many of you are boot campers, of course, most of you are, so I would hope you're going to answer that way, or else I'm not doing my job of convincing you how important it is to package. So those are the numbers that I forgot to share with you before. I also want to tell you one more thing, that September 10th, this is from my boot camper, September 10th is our next Group Sales Power Hour podcast. And of course, we are soon going to be broadcast to the whole planet via all of these new channels. So I want to go to, okay, Jackie typed in here. So listen, everybody, we've got 9 minutes left. Stick with me. Class is not dismissed yet. This is a full hour, obviously, power hour. And just so you know, when I do the podcast, you're going to see that there's going to be the 1 hour podcast, which is what we're doing now. Then you're going to see little short ones, like kind of like what Mike's doing. And they could be 2 minutes, they could be 7 minutes. I'm not going to time them, but it's just going to be me. And it's just going to be the thought of the day, a concept of the day. You know, again, my friends probably know this about me, that I love to share observations in real time, what I've seen, what I've experienced, what can I learn from that as an entrepreneur or solopreneur, and maybe I'll share that, you know, that information, my observation, will move you to do something differently, to try something new. Now, I'm not suggesting you step outside your comfort zone, because I don't believe in that. I don't think you should ever do that. Rather, I think you should step inside your new comfort zone, because I don't want you to be scared. I don't want you to be scared of trying something new. I want you to look at it and embrace it and feel confident, feel comfortable, and try it. Step inside your new comfort zone. So we've got 7 minutes left. So if you've got comments, questions, please, now is the time to type them in, because we will stop almost on the minute to the second at the top of the hour. And I'm so glad you're here for our very first recording of the Group Sales Power Hour podcast. Jackie says, Jacqueline, I'm sorry, says, I have a group of ladies, 7, that want 3 different destinations. Should I give them all the details for the trip without obtaining a travel quote fee? Wow, that's a good one. Now, as you know, friends, if you haven't been on these before, these are not sent in advance, so I don't have any time to, you know, this is like cheat sheets. So I'm looking at it for the first time, and this is a dilemma, because they all want to go someplace different. So you know, a follow-up question is, do they want to go to 3 different destinations over 3 years? Like in 2020, they're going to go here. In 2021, they're going to go to 2022. They want to go there. Or are they fighting with each other about where they want to go next? And out of the 7 ladies, they've come up with 3 places. So that's an important denominator to know. I'm going to assume that out of the 7 ladies, they all want to go to 3 different places at the same time, which is a problem, unless it's a virtual trip. And Jackie's just said, no, they have 3 destinations, and they want to choose one. So here's what I would say. Here's where, Jacqueline, you become, and listen, everybody, an expert qualifier. What you need to learn is why. What's in it for them? What is it that they want to come away with? And why don't you practice the philosophy that I just wrote about in my newest article in Motivationally Speaking? Start off by, and you could say, you're going to take notes, a little spreadsheet about these 3 destinations, so that you all, and here's where you're a coach, not a consultant, because you can't make the decision for them until you get much closer. You're going to be a coach, and that's what a coach does. That's what I do. You ask a lot of questions, you provide options, and you can steer them and guide them, but ultimately they need to own the decision, so all 7 ladies go to the same place. So you're going to say you're going to make a spreadsheet, you're going to keep notes, and start off by asking, what don't you want? What do you want to avoid when you go on this trip? And I don't know, Jacqueline, if they have travel history. Sometimes you can learn so much from where they've been and what went wrong, what they didn't like, what they wish they had or wish they had done or wish they had pre-booked. And then you can follow up with the stuff that they want. And it doesn't have to be destination specific, Jacqueline. They may say, well, one thing that's very important to us is the water. We love swimming. We love surfing. I'm just making this up. I don't know. What is the most important thing, this is on the other side of the question, that they want to experience together, or things they want to see? Do they love museums? So ultimately, it's like the same thing with a funnel concept, Jacqueline. Listen, everybody. You know, when you start the sales process, and if they don't call you and know exactly where they want to go, what they want to do, first of all, be real glad and grateful that they called you, no matter how challenging it may seem, because 7 women want to go to 3 places at the same time. Okay, it's the funnel process. They're going to start up here. And the more questions you ask and the more they reveal about what they don't want and what they do want, you're going to bring them down that funnel, and you're going to eliminate one of those destinations. And then you're going to be down to 2. And then you're going to eliminate 1 more. And whenever they say something they don't want or something they want, you're going to repeat it back. You're going to mirror their answers, Jacqueline, so that they hear what they've just said, and they're going to love you to pieces because they know you're listening. They know you're taking time to evaluate. Now, I can't guarantee that it's going to work, that you're going to get all of them to agree on one destination. But I think this is your best shot. The good news is that they're together and they want to go someplace together. That's the great news. So I would really start a very qualifying process and schedule a meeting with them all if you can. Because 7 people in a meeting, it's like a committee, and sometimes that get a little hairy, a little challenging. Maybe you use Zoom, maybe you can be together safely, or on a phone call, whatever. Or if you've started a private Facebook group for them, or maybe they have a private group. But schedule a meeting to try to whittle it down to determine, and so it'll make sense. Yeah, you're right. That destination is not going to work for the next place we want to go because we want to do more of this. Guide them, gear them, pave the road so that they make their own decision and they own it, and we'll be excited. Hey, why don't we do this destination in 2022? Because that's the experience we want then, not now. Does that make sense? Jacqueline says Turks and Caicos is where they're looking to go. Now they want the hotels or the details, which can rule me out if I don't obtain a deposit. So let's come back to that key question of the planning fee. And the planning fee, I've got to believe every travel advisor in the house is saying, man, Jacqueline, that's a lot of work to start doing without a travel fee. So I would say, I would hope that you're confident enough to say, look, I've got some great ideas. I'm going to take a deep dive with you right now. But what I'd like to get a planning fee on deposit, which of course will apply to the group. But I want to disconnect from some other clients, which is not true because you're going to stay connected with them naturally, of course. And you're going to bounce off how many clients you deal with at one time. But you're going to tell them, I want to give you my attention, my full attention, and my full expertise and professionalism. Because as soon as we know where we're going, because I can't give you prices. First we got to figure out where it is we do want to ultimately go. If it's based on price point, well, and if it's the most expensive place you want to go, it's easy. If it's the cheapest place, that's easy too. But let's qualify it more on the experience, what you want out of this trip. You want to eat great. You want to drink great. You want to do active stuff. What is it you want, and what destination will deliver? And please, if you understand, all of my clients always pay me an upfront planning fee so that you've got my full expertise and attention. And if they say no, then sometimes you just got to walk away, like what Mike just said. There are some people who you can't help and some people who need your help. And in this case, they sure need your help, because you're going to be part of the package now, aren't you? Because you're going to transform the experience from good to great. You're going to reduce risk and stress, and you're going to add value and convenience. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is time. Jacqueline says, thanks for the answer. You're most welcome. Hey, everybody. I told you the hour was going to zip by. Sam, thanks again for putting your mic on. Mike, my friend and mentor and coach, thanks for dropping in with your tips and comments, wit and wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be on the podcast channel soon enough. Boot Campers, you know where to find it. It's always going to be in our Facebook group. I want to thank you, Julie. You are most welcome. Sam said, appreciate the input and advice. And please comment. Let me know what we should be talking about. What's on your mind? What's happening in your world? What are your challenges, your opportunities, your questions, your ideas, your comments? Everything's on the table. Sharon, you are most welcome. With that, signing off. Thanks, everybody. Be well.